You ever notice how the loudest people in the room usually have the least to say? They ramble, they overshare, they tell you their next move before they even make it. Meanwhile, the ones who really hold power? They don't need to say much at all. They just sit back, watch, listen, and wait for the perfect moment. Then, when they move, it's already too late for everyone else. Now imagine you're standing across from a man who's never lost a fight. Not once. 60 duels, 60 victories. No flashy armor, no loud threats, just a sword, a presence that could break you before the fight even began, and a mind sharper than the blade in his hands. That was Miyamoto Musashi. And here's the thing, he didn't just win, he dominated. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because he knew something most people never figure out. Real control doesn't come from force, it comes from understanding when to act and when to wait. He mastered silence, patience, and observation so perfectly that by the time his opponents thought they had a chance, the fight was already over. But this isn't just about sword fights. This is about life. Whether you're dealing with people, negotiating, handling business, or just trying to stay ahead in a world full of distractions, the same principles apply. Most people are too quick to react, too eager to prove themselves, too afraid of silence. Musashi used that to his advantage, and you can too. Think about it. What if you could read people like a book before they even spoke? What if you could control conversations, situations, even outcomes without saying a word? That's what we're breaking down today, Musashi's hidden philosophy of power. And trust me, once you understand it, you'll start seeing things completely differently. So buckle up, because what you're about to learn might just change the way you play the game forever. Most people think of Miyamoto Musashi as just a swordsman, a warrior, some guy with a blade who fought his way into the history books. But the truth? He was something much bigger than that. Musashi wasn't just fighting battles, he was decoding life itself. See, this man lived in a time where a single mistake meant death. No second chances, no do-overs. You either outthink your opponent or you don't live long enough to regret it. And Musashi? He outthought everybody. Born in 1584, Musashi grew up in an era where samurai weren't just warriors, they were the power players of society. Honor, duty, skill, all of that mattered. But Musashi? He wasn't raised in a noble family. He didn't have the privilege of learning from high-ranking swordmasters. Instead, he was self-taught, figuring things out on his own terms. And by the time he was 13, he was already killing fully grown men in duels. But here's what separates Musashi from the rest. He didn't just win, he studied every fight, every movement, every hesitation. He wasn't just swinging a sword, he was reading people, controlling their expectations, making them react before they even realized they were doing it. That's why his philosophy isn't just about combat, it's about power, control, and understanding how the world really works. So what was his secret? Musashi believed in three things: silence, patience, and observation. He understood that power doesn't come from talking big or making flashy moves. It comes from knowing when to hold back, when to watch, and when to strike. Think about it. The world we live in today? It's noisy. People rush to speak, to react, to put their opinions out there. They're quick to argue, quick to prove themselves. But Musashi? He did the opposite. He stayed quiet. He studied people. He let them reveal their own weaknesses before he even lifted his sword. And this wasn't just some instinctual talent. It was a science. He developed a system, one that he later wrote down in his book, The Book of Five Rings. This wasn't a how-to guide for sword fighting. It was a blueprint for dominance in any field, whether it was battle, business, or life itself. One of the biggest ideas in his philosophy was not showing your hand too soon. He understood that the moment you reveal your plan, you give other people a chance to counter it. And that's not just true in sword fighting, that's true everywhere. Ever had a great idea, told someone about it, and then suddenly they do it first? Or maybe you're in a negotiation, and the moment you say what you really want, the other person uses it against you? That's what Musashi avoided at all costs. He believed in moving in silence, staying unreadable, and striking only when the time was perfect. And when he did strike, he never hesitated. This is why his teachings go far beyond sword fighting. They apply to anyone who wants to gain an edge. Whether you're in business, relationships, or just trying to navigate life, Musashi's philosophy teaches you how to control situations before they control you. Read people better than they read themselves. Use patience as a weapon. Master the art of acting without acting, being unpredictable, unreadable, and untouchable. And that's exactly what we're going to break down in this video. How Musashi built his strategy, how he won before the fight even started, and how you can use these same techniques in everyday life. Because here's the truth. Most people are playing checkers, reacting move by move. Musashi? He was playing chess, thinking 10 steps ahead. And by the time his opponents figured that out, they were already defeated. Let's talk about silence. Not the awkward kind where you don't know what to say, but the kind that commands a room. The kind that makes people uneasy, that forces them to wonder what you're thinking. The kind that Musashi weaponized. Most people don't know how to sit in silence. They rush to fill the void, to explain themselves, to justify, to impress. They think talking makes them look smart, makes them look powerful. But Musashi understood something most never realize. The moment you speak, you reveal something about yourself, your emotions, your thoughts, your intentions. And if the wrong person is listening, that's all the information they need to control you. Musashi didn't just use silence. He mastered it. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine standing across from him in a duel. The air is still, no words, no movement. Just a man standing there, sword in hand, watching you. No taunts, no threats, nothing to clue you in on what he's thinking. How do you react? You start second-guessing yourself. You wonder, why isn't he doing anything? What's he waiting for? Your mind starts filling in the blanks, and before you know it, you make the first move. And that's when he strikes. That's the power of silence. It makes the other person uncomfortable. It makes them reveal themselves first. And when you know what they're thinking, you control the game. Now, this isn't just some ancient samurai trick. This is something that plays out everywhere, even today. Look at the best negotiators, the best leaders, the most powerful people in any room. They know how to shut up and watch. Ever notice how the most confident people don't rush to speak? They let others talk first. They take their time. They choose their words carefully. Meanwhile, the ones who are insecure, unsure, or trying too hard, they can't stop talking. They over-explain. They give away too much too soon. And that's where they lose. Musashi knew that the first person to speak is usually the one who reveals the most. He used that to his advantage in battle, and you can use it in everyday life. Think about a negotiation. If you're buying a car, and the seller asks what your budget is, and you immediately say, "Oh, I was thinking around $25,000. Guess what? You just gave them everything they needed to control the deal. Now they know exactly how much they can squeeze out of you. But if you stay quiet, if you let them speak first, you force them to guess. You force them to play their hand first, or take arguments. Ever been in a heated discussion where the other person is just going off, ranting, yelling, throwing everything they've got at you, and instead of firing back, you just wait? You don't react. You don't get emotional. You just let them exhaust themselves. And then when they're done, you respond with one calm, cutting sentence that completely flips the conversation. That's Musashi's silence at work. Silence isn't weakness. It's control. It forces the other person to show you who they are first. It makes them react to you instead of the other way around. But here's the key. Silence isn't just about not talking. It's also about not reacting. Musashi knew that a warrior who lets his emotions control him is already defeated. That's why he trained himself to stay completely calm, still, unreadable. Because the moment you react emotionally, the moment you let anger, fear, or frustration take over, you're not thinking clearly anymore. And when you stop thinking clearly, you make mistakes. Musashi once said, "Do nothing that is of no use." That includes wasted words, wasted emotions, wasted reactions. Every move you make should be calculated, intentional. He didn't just swing his sword wildly. He waited. He watched. He made one perfect strike when the time was right. And that's how you should treat your words, too. Think about the next time you're in a tense situation, a negotiation, a confrontation, a moment where your instinct is to fill the silence, to explain, to react. Instead, wait. Let the other person make the first move. Let them reveal their hand. Let the silence do the heavy lifting for you. Because power doesn't scream. You ever get the feeling that someone's lying to you? Or that there's something they're not saying, but you just can't quite put your finger on it? Musashi never had that problem. He didn't need people to tell him what they were thinking. He could see it. The way they stood, the way they breathed, the way their grip tightened on the hilt of their sword just before an attack. He could read them like a book, long before they even knew what their next move was. And that's a skill that gives you an almost unfair advantage in life. Musashi understood that most people focus only on words. They listen to what's being said, and they take it at face value. But words are cheap. People lie. They sugarcoat things. They say what they think you want to hear. But the body never lies. Musashi trained himself to read the truth beneath the surface. And if you can do the same, you'll start seeing things most people miss. How Musashi used observation in combat. Let's go back to Musashi's duels. Imagine standing across from him in an open field, sword in hand. You're nervous, but you try to hide it. You grip your weapon tighter, trying to steady your breathing. But Musashi? He's already seen it. He knows where you're looking. He knows which foot you put more weight on, which means he knows which way you're going to move first. He notices the slight tension in your arms, which tells him whether you're about to attack or defend. And the second you so much as shift your weight forward, he's already won. That's observation at its highest level. But this isn't just about sword fights. This is about understanding people before they even speak. Most people are too busy talking to notice things. But once you train yourself to really watch people, you'll start seeing things they never meant to show you. Take a conversation, for example. Someone says, "Yeah, I'm fine," but their body says something else. Their arms are crossed. Their shoulders are tense. Their voice is just a little too forced. That's not fine. That's a mask. Or, in a negotiation, you make an offer and the other person pauses. They hesitate just a little too long before saying, "That's a fair price." Their words say yes, but their body just told you they were expecting way less. That's your cue to push for a better deal. Or how about spotting a lie? Someone avoids eye contact, not in a natural way, but in a calculating way. Their breathing changes. Maybe they touch their face, scratch their neck. That's the body trying to get rid of stress. That's a tell. Musashi understood that true power comes from seeing reality as it is, not as people want you to see it. This isn't something you're just born with. It's something you practice, and the more you do it, the sharper you get. Number 1. Slow down and watch more than you speak. Musashi wouldn't rush into a fight. He'd observe first, act second. Do the same in conversations. Don't just listen. Watch. How are they standing? What's their tone like? What's their energy saying? 2. Pay attention to micro-expressions. These are the tiny, involuntary facial expressions people make before they catch themselves. A flash of annoyance before a forced smile. A flicker of excitement before they try to play it cool. Those little moments, that's the truth slipping out. 3. Watch feet and hands. Most people focus on the face, but the feet and hands tell the real story. If someone's nervous, their foot might start tapping, or they might unconsciously turn it toward the exit. If they're faking confidence, their hands might be clenched or fidgeting. 4. Learn the power of silence. Most people can't stand silence. If you pause after asking a question, they'll rush to fill the gap. And in doing so, they'll often reveal more than they meant to. Musashi knew this trick centuries ago. Number 5. Train yourself to notice patterns. Musashi's greatest strength was that he wasn't just reacting in the moment. He was collecting data. He remembered how people moved, how they hesitated, how they revealed themselves. The more patterns you recognize in people, the easier it is to predict them. Seeing what others miss. Musashi once said, "Perception is strong and sight is weak." What he meant was that most people look, but they don't really see. They miss the details, the patterns, the signals that reveal everything they need to know. But you can be different. The next time you're in a conversation, don't just hear the words. Watch. Listen beyond what's being said. Because the truth, the real battle doesn't happen when people are talking. It happens before that, when they think no one's watching. Patience. It's not flashy. It's not aggressive. It doesn't feel powerful until you see what it can do. See, most people think power means taking action. moving fast, making quick decisions. But Musashi, he knew the truth. Restraint is just as deadly as action. In fact, the ability to wait is what separates those who win from those who burn out, chasing every little opportunity that crosses their path. Because here's the thing, impatience kills strategy. Act too soon, and you reveal your hand. Get frustrated, and you make mistakes. Jump the gun, and suddenly, you're playing someone else's game instead of controlling the board yourself. And Musashi? He never played by someone else's rules. Let's go back to Musashi's duels again for a second. One of the ways he won, before the fight even began, was by making his opponents wait. He'd arrive late to duels on purpose, not by a little, sometimes by hours. His opponent would be standing there, weapon in hand, pacing, heart racing, overthinking every possibility. By the time Musashi showed up, they were already mentally exhausted. And that was his real weapon. Because a person who is impatient is a person who is already losing. He made them simmer in their own doubt, their own frustration. And when he finally arrived, calm and completely in control, they were already beaten. That's patience as a weapon. Now you're probably not challenging people to sword fights, but Musashi's restraint, it works everywhere. Let's talk about negotiations. Say you're at a job interview. The recruiter says, "So what salary are you expecting?" And you feel that pressure, the need to answer, to say something fast. But if you just pause, if you take a breath and let silence do the work, suddenly they start second-guessing. Maybe they just offered too little. Maybe they should throw out a higher number first. That's restraint in action. Or how about arguments? Someone's yelling, trying to get under your skin, trying to force a reaction. If you take the bait, you lose control. But if you wait, if you let them burn themselves out while you stay cool, now you have the power. Or let's talk about investing. The smartest traders in the world aren't the ones constantly buying and selling, chasing every market shift. They're the ones who know when to wait, when to hold their position, when to strike only when the conditions are perfect. Musashi's philosophy wasn't about doing nothing. It was about knowing when to act and when to let everyone else make mistakes first. See, the modern world is designed to make you impatient. Notifications, breaking news, ads telling you to buy now before it's too late. Everything is built to make you react instantly, without thinking. And that's dangerous. Because the moment you become reactive, you stop being strategic. You start chasing instead of controlling. And once that happens, you're not the one playing the game anymore. The game is playing you. Musashi understood that the one who waits, calmly, quietly, without stress, is the one who controls the battlefield. And if you can do that, if you can train yourself to resist the pressure, to hold steady while everyone else jumps the gun, you win. Every time. So how do you develop unshakable patience? You train it. The same way Musashi did. 1. Delay your reactions. Next time someone asks you a question, wait a second before answering. Notice how they start filling the silence for you. Notice how powerful that pause feels. 2. Make decisions slower. Before making a big choice, step back. Give it time. Ask yourself, what would happen if I just waited a little longer? Most of the time, the right move will reveal itself. 3. Stop chasing immediate wins. Every time you feel the impulse to react instantly, whether it's replying to a message, arguing back, or jumping on an opportunity, pause. Train yourself to wait and observe instead. That moment of restraint, that's where real control begins. So, what does all of this mean for you? You're not walking around with a sword on your hip. You're not dueling in the streets. But Musashi's philosophy? It isn't about swinging a blade. It's about how you move through life. See, most people play the game wrong. They talk too much. They act too fast. They react instead of observing. And because of that, they spend their lives chasing instead of controlling. But not you. Not anymore. If you've made it this far, you're starting to see the world differently. You're starting to understand what real power looks like. It's quiet. It's strategic. It's patient. And if you apply what you've learned today, you won't just move through life like everyone else. You'll move like a warrior. Let's break this down. What does it actually mean to live by Musashi's code? First, silence is power. The moment you speak, you reveal something. Hold back. Watch. Let others talk first. The less they know about you, the more you control the room. Second, observation beats reaction. The world is full of distractions. People try to pull you into their chaos. But Musashi? He watched before he moved. He read his opponents before they even knew they were being read. Do the same. Notice everything. People's words, their body language, the patterns they don't even know they have. Because once you start seeing these things, you start playing life like chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And finally, restraint is control. The one who rushes in first is usually the one who falls first. Hold your ground. Let impatience destroy the other side. Don't speak too soon. Don't act too fast. Know when to wait. Because when you do move, it'll be with precision. Musashi's philosophy wasn't about violence. It was about domination through understanding, about moving through life like a ghost, unreadable, untouchable, always a step ahead. So here's my challenge for you. Just for one day, I want you to live by Musashi's code. Hold back more than you normally would. Listen before you speak. Observe people. Really observe them. Notice their habits, their energy, their tells, and most of all, resist the urge to react immediately. Do this for one day, just one, and see what happens. See how people react to you differently. See how much more control you feel over every situation. See how much more powerful you become, just by doing less. The most powerful people in the world don't chase, they don't beg, they don't react. They wait, they watch, and when they move, they win. Thank you for watching.